It's Mark Marmer from Signature Electric. So beautiful, sunny Saturday. And we're down here with Ron Fitton from the Beach United Church. Tell me a little bit what's happening with the Eco Fair.
This is our first year of an Eco Fair. We're thrilled to have it. We have a variety of vendors, from food preparation of local or natural foods to electric charger installations to solar savings to
A lot of things with bicycles and stuff, right?
in the business of repairing some bicycles for free. So it's a wonderful fair.
Fantastic. So I know that this is an interesting setup. We were in a Green Pea parking lot, but as it turns out, this parking lot belongs to the church.
That is correct. Green Pea provides the financial services to manage the payments and ticketing.
The church, I know, is very environmentally friendly in all kinds of ways. I know when you first came, you were so proud of this permeable surface that we have below us. I've never seen anything like this. We're used to usually seeing asphalt in the driveways, and this was something different.
Below the surface that we can see, there's a 2-foot layer of gravel, and coarse gravel, and that provides the water sink for capturing all of the storm water that comes out. It will meet the 100-year storm requirement to capture the water on the surface.
Right.
On our property, there is no connection to the city's storm system at all. On top of the gravel is a grid system made up of plastic squares, and they are made from recycled plastic bags. So already we're winning because we're making use of something that otherwise is heading to landfill. The squares hold these small paving bricks, 4-inch by 4-inch paving bricks that we can see on the top. Those are made from recycled tires. Rainwater flows through this at a crazy rate. It never flows out to the street. We did a demonstration and poured out 200 gallons of water, and the spread of the pool, we could get our arms around it.
Wow.
It was going through the porous surface that quickly. So we're very proud of that. We're proud of the recycling part. We're proud of the getting away from the city's stormwater system problem. And we're providing a very friendly parking surface. It's a pleasure to walk on it because it kind of spongy and bounces with you.
I know the church has got more things like it. We'll back up a little. So immediately, as soon as you approach the church, you're quite able to see the amount of solar that's on the top. Give us a little idea what's going on here.
Well, 2 things about the roof. We had the opportunity to rebuild the whole church building a few years back. And in the process, we incorporated all of the conduit lines to handle the solar system on the roof, so that it's a very compact system inside. We're generating 50 kilowatt hours of electricity. We are fortunate enough to have been able to get in on the FIT program in Ontario a few years back. So we are selling that electricity to the Toronto Hydro grid. We're not using it ourselves.
Oh, this is great.
And it would power, my understanding is it would power anywhere from 3 to 5 typical households on the street. The white panels that we can see over the 3 windows, they are about halfway lowered at the moment. And that's because the heat was building up in the main room behind there. And it's full of people, of course, so it's also generating body heat. We don't want to be running electricity for air conditioning if we don't have to. So there are 2 things happening. We lower the shades so that the sun is blocked a little bit. And secondly, on the furnace, the HVAC system in the church, the system is set for a lower temperature than currently exists in the room, and it's pulling in the outside fresh air from this lovely May day and helping keep the room temperature under control without turning on air conditioning. So it's part of what we built in when we did the renovation of the building a few years ago. The other thing that I would point out, you may not be able to see them from this distance, but on the eaves trough system, but as the wind starts to spin those things too much, it senses that this wind is getting to be too much for those shades, and it will automatically withdraw the shades so they're protected from being blown apart. So in the middle of the night, I don't have to worry about running down here and putting the blinds back up.
This is great. I know that I'd like to go inside and see a little bit.
So this is our electrical room.
So this part was here before. This is the part of the system that we saw on the roof for the solar. We weren't involved in this particular installation.
Oh, okay.
We didn't do the solar, but this is the cable bringing the power in. It's not one direction of energy. We've got energy coming from the roof. So it's coming back into this disconnect. It's through this meter because it's a FIT program. They're wanting to meter it individually and separately from the service metering, which is somewhere else. And then a disconnect back into the main. You're seeing it's coming into the main service. This is coming in ahead of the meter. So this is the house meter for the actual church. And this is the meter for that FIT program. They're getting paid back at a different rate. And then what we did was we put a new panel on the back wall here. So this is serving those chargers that you saw. In fact, we had to go out the outside and all the way around the building. I know there's a bit upstairs. We'll take a look upstairs. We're with Megan from the Solar Co-op, and she's going to explain to me solar from the perspective of a 9-year-old. This is perfect.
We have a couple things here. In order to sort of explain part of the importance of renewable energy, such as solar power, we've come up with a little game. Now, one of the biggest surprises to people is, do people actually know what the most abundant molecule in our atmosphere actually is? It is not oxygen. It is, believe it or not, it is nitrogen. Our atmosphere is composed of 80% nitrogen and about 20% oxygen. And so that's often a big surprise to people. Now, these two are not greenhouse gases. They don't absorb very much infrared radiation. The issue with greenhouse gases is that greenhouse effect. We need some of that in order to keep our planet warm and to allow for life to exist. But too much traps too much infrared radiation, and that becomes a problem with what creates climate change. Ozone, we heard about it a lot in the past. What was in the news was the hole in the ozone layer. Very important up high in the atmosphere, but there are some chemical human-made processes that can release ozone low and cause problems. And this was one of the biggest successes of the international community coming together and actually banning these things that were existed in refrigerants and propellants.
So it should give us some hope, right?
Exactly. This is what we can do when we come together. We can actually fix these problems with things like solar panels to generate clean power.
Okay, so this is what's happening on the roof. So we have the Tygo is giving us information back that we can do through the app, and the optimizers are telling us what each panel is doing. So we've got a pretty sunny day. What do we see?
Well, you can see the reading on each panel is somewhere in the low 700s, 735, 723. It depends a little bit on the angle. There's a slightly different angle in this section of the roof than up here. Earlier today, there was a chimney on the church roof right about here.
Yep.
And so earlier today, we could track the shadow of the chimney because the power generation was dropping off on each of those panels as the shade swept by.
So this is interesting because when we do a solar assessment, we also use a program, and the program will actually understand that there's a tree over here that loses shade in part of the day. So try to get our information to the customer, our initial information, as close as possible to looking at the shape of the roof, and it knows the area. It's actually quite interesting.
Right, yep. One of the sidelines of all of this was when we were reconstructing the church building a few years back, putting the new roof on, the plan was to take the chimney away.
Oh.
Because we're not using it, it's defunct. However, a neighbor pointed out that we were hosting a family of chimney swifts. They nest down inside defunct chimneys.
Birds.
And they cling onto the wall, build a nest on the inside of the chimney wall. And he was adamant that we shouldn't take the chimney away, and we quite agreed. And so just lived with the fact that we now have this moving shadow every sunny day. But it was part of our environmental commitment. That
I think it's a
why
feature.
would we disturb the family of chimney swifts for the sake of a few dollars and some electricity?
Great. Now, it's a nice feature of the building.
It's a balance, exactly. It's worth mentioning that this whole management of the solar co-op is run by a community co-op. So it's an outreach into the community where their own house might not have the ability to host a rooftop solar system. This is a way that they can become engaged.
Ron, thank you so much for you and the church for your commitment to the community and also the commitment to the environment in general.
And thank you for saying that. I want to acknowledge that I didn't do it alone.
You got a good team. Thanks a lot.
Nice to see you.